I think it would be a huge mistake to shut this down. Once they take this, it's never coming back. This is the only one on this half of the planet. It's the only one in existence. It's totally unique, and the numbers justify it.
Up to 800 drug users visit the facility every day to inject legally under a nurse's supervision. But the federal government says the site does more harm than good, and it wants it shut down.
We organized this news conference this morning to draw attention to the support BC Nurses and the BC Nurses Union will be bringing this week to Insite in its continuing legal battle against the federal government.
The action started because the exemption that Insite requires under the Controlled Drug Substance Act to continue lawfully operating was set to expire. The federal government refused to continue the exemption, and these parties went before the BC Supreme Court in 2008, arguing that there was a constitutional right to carry on with this important healthcare service. The failure to continue the exemption breached Section 7 of the Charter.
We believe that providing harm reduction services at places like Insite is a critical and legitimate part of nursing practice.
The BC Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal have held that because both users and nurses could face prosecution, that interferes with their right to liberty and security of the person.
Our mandate is to prevent death and disability from overdose, to provide harm reduction teaching to make drug use safer for the user, to make referrals, and to perform nursing treatments.
The only stats that are really changing at Insite are the number of people that are using Insite to then go on to recovery services, and that's growing year by year.
The evidence is that users who access Insite's services are 30% more likely to enter detox.
The Insite speaks loudly to those in the population that are fiscal conservatives, because Insite saves money.
If you can address, prevent, and reduce the spread of these infectious diseases, you reduce the healthcare costs that are necessary in order to treat them.
I hope Mr. Harper does the right thing and puts politics aside and makes his decisions based on the evidence.
The evidence is clear that it saves lives. The evidence is clear that addiction is an illness.
Why shut a blind eye when you can do something to help it? Not help the problem, but help the solution.
If you take this place out of the equation, you are more and more going to have overdose deaths.
This place has saved over 3,000 lives.
We don't provide the drugs that people use at the supervised injection facility. They use the drugs that they otherwise would be injecting in back alleys.
For me, I personally come here when I don't want to be alone when I'm using. That way I've got company. And if I'm trying somebody else's new stuff.
I'm not quite sure why the Harper government is so bent on closing Insite.
It's not a political issue. This is a healthcare issue.
Others say it's against the law, an argument now before the Supreme Court of Canada where more than 100 spectators lined up to listen.
It is strange that we're here today when this is already supported by a provincial government.
Thank you, Chief Justice. But according to federal lawyers, it's for Ottawa to decide whether illicit drugs like heroin should be used to treat heroin addicts.
Control of all drugs is and has been a matter of exclusive federal control.
That sentiment echoed by the Ministry of Health in a statement which reads, in part, the plaintiffs are challenging this government's ability to regulate highly addictive, dangerous drugs. We must defend the government's ability to do so for the safety of Canadians. For now, the site remains open, while the judges determine just who gets to decide where and how heroin addicts are treated.
The work nurses do at Insite is lawful work.
The situations that we're dealing with are a matter of life and death, and we can't just ignore that.
If they weren't in here, they'd be on the alley ODing and no one to help them.
In 2007, I OD'd here. I was fortunate enough to be revived by the staff.
In 1996, there was a dramatic spread of HIV amongst injection drug users in the downtown east side. And over the following few years, overdose deaths significantly increased. And so people looked around to see what could be done to decrease the risks.
There were epidemic levels of HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, tuberculosis, and other healthcare concerns that reverberate throughout the community.
These days, you still don't find as many syringes or rigs on the street.
We're doing a lot in terms of linking people back up with resources, like getting people in touch with their healthcare providers, getting people into stabilized housing, linking people back up with social service programs.
It gave me an opportunity to go up to detox on the second floor to recovery and start, right?